Alright, y'all, so we back with the top 5 of each position in the NBA. Y'all know we did point guards on Saturday. I don't do videos or anything like that on Sunday. It's the Sabbath. I like to keep that day holy for God as best as I can. So let's talk about shooting guards today. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, off rip, Jaylen Brown and PG, I count them both as threes based off what they played last year. I'm going to count them both as threes. I do think PG will probably play the 3 for Philly, but he might play the 2. I don't know. We'll see what that final roster looks like. But he might start off the season playing the 2 and then move to the 3 depending on what they do at the deadline. I don't know. But you could count them as either, and if you count them as either, they would both be on this list ahead of the guys that I have at 4 and 5. Speaking of, also this guy at 5, Tyrese Maxey. I'm going to tell you right now, my 5th guy is Tyrese Maxey. You might think of him as a point guard, and last season I would say he mostly played point guard, if not completely played point guard. But if he was on my point guard list, he would have been left off. And then if I would have not considered him, if I would have considered him a point guard, left him off that list, then I wouldn't really have anyone to go at 5 here, because I think from the guy who's at 4, if you do anyone that isn't Tyrese Maxey, I think there is a significant drop off after Maxey, considering the fact that I have Jaylen Brown and PG both at 3. So we are considering Tyrese Maxey at 2, and he is my 5th guy. Now, he had a great year last year, won Most Improved Player, while being the number 1 option with Embiid being out. He jumped up from, I think, 20 to 25 or 26 points. He's a good passer. You know what I'm saying? He's going to be a guy that's going to get you like an assist-turnover ratio, like 6-to-1, something like that. So he'll get you a good assist-to-turnover ratio. He's not going to be a guy that's like a Tyrese Halliburton that's going to go up there and get you 10, 12 assists anytime you want it. He's not going to be that. He's not a good rebounder. Again, that's one of those size things for him. It's just that he's not a good rebounder. But yeah, he's not a good rebounder. That's mostly because of his size. He's not by any means a good defender. And honestly, out of the top 5 guys, he's probably the worst defender on this list. It's mostly because of his size, but also he doesn't have length. He's just not going to be a great defender. He's not going to be able to switch on to any bigger guards or forwards at all because of his lack of size. So that hurts him automatically defensively because he doesn't have that type of versatility. He's a good 3-point shooter, but that took a dip last year. I think he was like a 42, 43% guy, or maybe a little less than that, but he was definitely a 40% guy 2 years ago. And then it took a bit of a dip last year. It should go back up this year. Again, last year defenses were really only worried about him on Philly. Like, for the most part, at least, they were really just worried about him. And now, you know what I'm saying, they're going to have Embiid, they're going to have PG. Bless you, thank you. They're going to have Embiid, they're going to have PG, they're going to have other guys to worry about with that defense, so they're not just going to be able to key in as much on Tyrese Maxey, so I think that will help him open up his game a little more, especially from deep. And also, he just was in his, 3rd year in the league, 4th year maybe? Like, he just was in his, I think it was just his 3rd year in the league, so, like, he's going to keep getting better, I assume. Like, progression's not linear or anything, but he's going to keep getting better, so I expect that to go back up. He's solid at getting to the basket. He's not one of those guys that's going to kill you in the mid-range like some of these other guys on this list, or like mid-range assassins, or some guys on that small forward list are, some guys that were on my point guard list. Like, there are more guys that are going to get to the mid-range, and he's not really one of them, but he's a solid slasher for his size. He's got a little bit of a stocky build, so that helps him get into the paint and finish and everything like that. So yeah, Tyrese Maxey at 5. Now, just ahead of him, Kyrie Irving. Now, I do think Kyrie Irving's not like right next to him, like where it's interchangeable, but I do think Kyrie isn't like a crazy amount ahead of him. I have Kyrie Irving. To me, he's either the best or second best tough shot maker on the planet, and if he's not number 1, then it's a guy my guy that's number 2 on this list is probably number 1. He doesn't get a ton of open looks, especially now that he's getting older. His agility and his like burst of speed aren't as consistent. Like, he's not going to be able to rely on those in and out of possessions like he used to be able to, like he has been able to in the past. He did improve on defense last year, so he's not a complete negative on defense. He might be like a little bit of a net negative, or at best, he's a 0. He's a net even on that end because, like I said, it's kind of like Tyrese Maxey. He doesn't have a lot of height. He doesn't have a lot of strength. He's not weak or anything, but like he doesn't have like a crazy amount of strength. Like, he's not like OG Anunoby, where he's one of the strongest players in the league, and then he doesn't have really a lot of length either. Now, I mean, this does help that they have Luka guard. They have Luka at the 1, who's like 6'7", so like they can play Kyrie guarding 1 guards and everything like that. But it's like, you're not gonna want Kyrie as your main ball handler. You're just not gonna want that. Even if that ball handler is a guard that's his size, you're not gonna want that for the whole game. And that does hurt them a little bit defensively. Even though he did lock in a little more defensively on that end, I just still don't think he's a net positive. To me, he's still the best finisher in the league at the rim. Like, I don't know bro, we saw him in the playoffs finish a layup versus the Clippers over 3 people. And he was like in the air for like 50 seconds. Like, I couldn't believe it. Obviously hyperbole, but like I couldn't believe what I was seeing when that happened. He's a phenomenal 3-point shooter. He's one of those guys that's going to be consistently above 40%. He's hit 50, 40, 90, I'm pretty sure, in his career. He's not quite that anymore because, like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, it's hard to be 50, 40, 90 a lot. So, like, even Steph Curry doesn't do that all the time. But He's not a 50, 40, 90 guy anymore, but he's going to get you that 40% from three almost guaranteed. He doesn't get to the line a ton for a guy that finishes a lot, but a lot of that is because he can just finish at the rim through contact, and a lot of times that contact won't be called. But then he also, like, he's a guy that, like, relies a lot on, like, in the mid-range, like, fadeaways and floaters and stuff like that. So it's like it's hard to get fouled on those type of shots where he's not driving to the rim all the time. He's gonna a lot of times when he gets past the guy, because of his best handle in the league, best handle of all time, he's gonna get to that spot, and he's just gonna be able to float over whoever he wants to or do whatever he wants to. So he doesn't get fouled a ton at the rim, even when he doesn't go to the rim a lot, because he has that floater, he has that fadeaway midi, and he has that 3-point ball, which is always hitting. He really, really didn't play well in the finals, if you ask me. Like, I don't think this is something that's been talked about a ton, but he hasn't played well. He did not play well in the last finals. A lot of that was, again, because of that lack of agility, that lack of burst. It prevented him from getting past bigger guys like Jrue Holiday, who are also guards, but they're like 6'4", 6'5". Like, they're bigger than Kyrie is, and they're also like a bit of a thicker build, pause. So, yeah, Kyrie Irving's my 4. Now I think is where we take a gap. Now I think 1, 2, and 3, you could really interchange them however you want. But then I think there is a gap between 3 and 4. Number 3, I have Donovan Mitchell. Some of you are going to put him higher. Like I said, if you have 1, 2, and 3, you can interchange him in really whatever order you want to, kind of, like, for the most part. And I'm not going to be too mad at you as long as you have an argument for it. Donovan Mitchell. To me, he's the second best slasher on this list behind my guy who I have at number 1. His slashing ability is great. His three-point ability is great. And that combined helps him open up and get open looks for himself a little more consistently than guys like Tyrese Maxey maybe than some other guys like the guy who's right above him. He doesn't get as many open looks because his 3-ball isn't simply as good as Donovan Mitchell's is all the time, right? And you'll see that once I talk about who it is. But he's not great in the mid-range. His lack of height does hurt him a bit, kind of with some certain things, like just shooting. Like, he's not going to be one of those guys like where he's KD. He's going to be able to pull up from a mid-range over anybody else, but he does have that he has that leaping ability. He has that athleticism to where he can jump over that contest anytime. So that does help him. But he's not a great mid-range guy. He's a good passer, even though he's not one of those guys that's going to be your primary ball handler all the time. He can be. He's a really good one. I mean, he's a really good passer. He's a solid rebounder for his height. Donovan Mitchell's like 6'3" at the best. Like, he's a solid rebounder for his height. And his lack of size, that 6'3" frame, it does hurt him on defense, but he's very agile. He's pretty strong, got a bit of a stocky build. He's super athletic, so that helps him. Like, he's super athletic, so he's just got some strength with him automatically. But he will get big-bodied by some bigger guards or forwards. We know that. We know that's kind of a theme. Like, with the last 3 guys, it's kind of just been Donovan Mitchell, Kyrie, Tyrese Maxey. They're not big guys. They're 2s, but they're not like lanky 2s where they're going to be able to really help you a ton on defense or have that defensive versatility like my number 1 guy. And he's extremely clutch. Just like Kyrie, I didn't even mention this for Kyrie, but extremely clutch, can hit any shot in the clutch you want him to. It doesn't matter how big the moment is, he can do it. So that's my guy, that's number 3. I think it's really, really close between him and number 2, but I think between, like, either one of them, I think you would leave this guy at number 1, who I have at number 1, but I think between 3 and 2, I wouldn't be mad either way, and I also wouldn't be mad if my number 1 guy, you had him at number 2 either, but I don't think you can put him at number 3. That's why I said for the most part, you can kind of do any flip-flopping between these 3 guys as possible, but my number 2 guy, to me, the best or second best shot maker in the league, and I'd probably say, I think Kyrie is the best finisher around the rim, but like shot making, like just like he can hit any shot outside of like the paint, outside of like slashing. I'm talking about any jumper. I'm gonna give it to this guy. I'm giving it to Devin Booker. The only guy, like I said, he's arguable with is Kyrie. He offensively, I think he plays more similar to Kobe than anyone else in the league right now. I know people love to talk about, well, who plays similar to Kobe? Nobody really plays super similar to Kobe, but if we're talking about just offense, it's Devin Booker more than anyone, except Devin Booker, more like 24 Kobe than 8 Kobe for sure. But like he plays more similar to Kobe than anyone else in the league. He doesn't really generate a ton of open shots for himself, and a lot of that is because he's not a big threat slashing all the time. Now, he does make up for that in the fast break. Most of his slashing points come in the fast break. He can push the tempo. He's fast. He can get up there quickly. He has the handle so he can get through whatever coverage you've got on the fast break, whether it's just 1 guy or 2 guys, and he can finish at the rim solidly, obviously, because he's an all-star. Like, he's one of the best in the league, so he can finish at the rim. But he doesn't slash a lot, like especially in the half-court sets. He really doesn't do that a lot, so it doesn't help him generate a ton of open shots. But he can hit. It doesn't really matter because he can hit any mid-range. He can hit fadeaways over you. He can just rise up and hit a jumper over you. He can hit a 3. It doesn't really matter for you. I mean, it doesn't really matter for him. Now, he severely lags behind guys who are ahead of him slashing, like Donovan Mitchell or like my number 1 guy, who y'all can probably guess who it is at this point. But my number 1 guy, like him and Donovan Mitchell, are crazy slashers, and Devin Booker simply doesn't have that. And Devin Booker's not a great defender. He doesn't have a lot of length or strength helping him on that end, but he is like 6'5", 6'6", so he's more versatile than some of the other guys on this list. Like all three of the guys behind him are shorter than him, so he does have a little more defensive versatility than those guys, and I think he's a pretty solid off-ball defender. He can get in lanes, he can get in gaps. Good playmaker, not a great one. I do still think Phoenix needs a 1. I do like Devin Booker a lot, but I don't want him playing the 1 full time. Now, again, that would suck because then you have like 6'3" Bradley Beal playing the 3 or something, so that's not great. But what I'm saying is I don't think he's a guy that's going to be like a 1 guy all the time. I don't think he's that good of a playmaker, but he is a good playmaker for a 2 guard. Not a great rebounder, but again, it's a 2 guard. You don't need him to be a great rebounder. And he's a very good 3-point shooter, but he's by no means a phenomenal one. He's never shot 40% from 3 in his career, which actually surprised me when I was looking that up because I feel like he would have. And I'm pretty sure he's been in the 3-point contest. Like I'm 90% sure he's been in one. But very good 3-point shooter, not a phenomenal one. And between him and Donovan Mitchell, if you want to flip that, I'm not even mad. And honestly, with my number 1 guy, who's Anthony Edwards, you could even flip it. Now, Anthony Edwards, I think last year he far and away proved himself as the best. Well, not far and away, but I think last year he definitely solidified himself as the best 2 guard in the league, where I think before the season, a lot of people had it between, you know what I'm saying, these 3 guys, Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell, Anthony Edwards, and I think a lot of people would have picked Devin Booker before last season, but Anthony Edwards, I think last season proved it. His highlight reel, he's a human highlight reel on both ends of the floor. Like, if you looked at his highlight reel, you would think he's a DPOY type player, like, just off defense alone. Like, he's a crazy highlight reel. He got better with his mid-range last year, especially with the pull-up middies, to where he can, like, kind of be a pull-up and, like, be fading back. He can hit that over pretty much anyone. We saw that in some Team USA gameplay so far. He's a very good defender. I think, to me, he's probably the best 2-way defender in the league, and the only guy you could argue is better than him 2-way. Is Jaylen Brown, because we know Kawhi's not he doesn't have the defense like he used to have, but it used to be Kawhi. But I think the only other guy you could say is maybe a better 2-way player than Anthony Edwards, especially at like this 2 guard, 3 guard type area right there, is Jaylen Brown. He needs to continue improving his mid-range and pull-up threes. I think those are things that as they get better, he will completely become unguardable, which he basically already is. But like, his pull-up 3 percentage isn't great. Now, he's a very good catch-and-shoot 3-point shooter, which is good, but his pull-up 3 percentage isn't great at all. And he's proven that he can carry a team in tough moments, which is great. He's clutch. He can do that. That's great. But to me, he's still a better player when he's playing off the ball, which is why I like the picks of like Terrence Shannon Jr., who can play some 1s and 2s, some maybe even some 3. And then you've got Rob Dillingham, who's going to play some 1. And then you've got maybe even some 2. He's going to play some 1s and 2. And then you've got Mike Conley. I like that they have guards that can handle the rock and let Anthony Edwards play off ball, where he's a guy that is a threat to slash and attack the rim off the catch. Or he's a guy that's a threat to pull up and hit a 40%, because he's 40% or more on his catch-and-shoot threes. I don't remember the exact number, but he's more than like 40% on his catch-and-shoot threes. And that makes him a threat to not only he can he can drive on you and pull up for the midi, which isn't a great percentage, but as that continues to improve, it'll make him an even more dominant off-ball player. And then he can hit the catch-and-shoot 3 shoot the catch-and-shoot 3 off the catch. He can go and he can drive and he can attack off the catch. Even if he's not going and finishing at the rim, he can make the right play while he's attacking because he's a solid playmaker. I love that for him. He's not a great playmaker, though. Don't get me wrong. He definitely has some lapses. He definitely has some, like, young player type moments with the playmaking where he'll just throw the ball out of bounds or he'll go up in the air and get caught in the air without having too much of a plan. But I do think he is still the best 2 guard in the league. Like I said, he's young, so he has places to develop, whereas like Devin Booker's been in the league since like 2016, 2017, so he's a bit older, where Anthony Edwards since 2020. So him and Tyrese Maxey, they have a lot of room to improve. And I think they're going to continue improving, whereas like guys like Kyrie more than Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell. But Devin Booker, Donovan Mitchell have been in the league for a little longer. We kind of know what we've got with them, but I think Anthony Edwards continue to improve that pull-up midi, that pull-up 3, and I think he's going to be disgusting, even more disgusting than he already is. And he's even with these flaws, if you want to call them, he's even still the best 2 guard in the league to me, and I think to most people right now, he's the best 2 guard in the league. But yeah, that's it. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for watching. Tomorrow, you will come back. If you tune in, you will get the best 3 guards not 3 guards. You will get the best small forwards in the league, some of the best wing players in the league, and then we'll go power forwards, and you'll have centers on Wednesday. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank you for everything, man. Stay blessed. Stay praying.